Hey comic fans, Dave here at Ground Zero. It's Wednesday morning. That means it is time for your weekly look at what's on the shelves at your favorite local comic book store. Now, for those of you who watch these videos all the way to the end, first off, thank you. We really appreciate it. And second, last week we talked a lot about Comic Savers. Just about every shop in the country has its own form of Comic Saver program, and it is the best tool to ensure you get what books you want. You know, that you don't miss a book just because it has suddenly become hot. Well, around Ground Zero, a lot of people took advantage of that. This past week, we had people adding new comics to their existing saver or starting brand new savers all of their own. All of which means there's a lot of titles back here that I don't have as many copies of as I normally would. So there's a lot of books we will be selling out of pretty promptly this week. What books, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked that. First off, Radiant Black from Kyle Higgins. Now, this book has been seemingly gaining new readers just about every issue. It took a couple issues for people to decide if they liked Radiant Black, but once they did, they like it a lot. And so every week, it seems to gain new heat. So I'm going to be selling out. It won't last terribly long, but I do have copies for the stands. Also, this week, books that I will sell out of pretty promptly. First off, Daredevil. Ever since Elektra took over the mantle of Daredevil, she has been an internet darling. Early issues with her in it are absolutely spiking on eBay. So a lot of people have added this to their saver to make sure they don't miss a copy. It's hot, so, you know, there it is. A book that also we will be selling off, but for different reasons, and that is Catwoman. This book is not necessarily a hot speculator internet book. It's just good. Ram V is doing a great job with the story in this book, and so it's become a big hit with people who like to, I don't know, read their comics. So for those of you who like to read your comics, I salute you. And the new issue Catwoman is in this week, just not for very long. Two more books that will promptly sell out. First off, Trials of the Ultraman. Ultraman actually has a lot of fans. Most of them are on Saver here at Ground Zero, but for the rest of you, I do get a few copies usually for the shelves, and it always sells out. There's no reason for this issue to be any different. And finally, no surprise, Batman Fortnite crossover, new issue of that is in. I only have a handful for the stands. I've already pulled all the copies that were prepaid. We offered prepay all the issues, you know, when the first issue came out. Or if you've got it on Saver, you've got your copy. Don't worry. For the rest of you, I don't have very many, but don't panic if you miss it, because don't pay the silly prices on eBay. They will be coming out with new printings of these. Everybody's going to get all the codes they need. But either way, new issue is here now. Okay, some books that may or may not sell out. We always like it when they do. Superman Red and Blue. You know, this book was inevitable after the success of Batman Black and White and the crosstown success of both Wolverine and Carnage, Black, White, and Blood. Really, honestly, this book actually has black and white in it also, which really just means it's missing yellow. But I guess Superman Missing Yellow was not a very good title, so instead it's called Red and Blue. The stories are good. People have liked it, so new issues here. Another book people really like, Nightwing. Now, you know, back in the 90s, the Chuck Dixon run on Nightwing was just fantastic. It was a fan favorite, but ever since then, he's been kind of up and down. Right now, he is up. People are really liking this new take on Nightwing, so I keep ordering more copies. Hopefully, I'll have enough this time. We'll see. Two more from DC. First off, Yara Flor gets her own series with Wonder Girl. It's kind of hard to read that logo, that gray silver logo on green, going DC. I can't see it, but either way, good book. It's got good art and good story. This is a character that didn't even exist 6 months ago, and already she has a pretty big following. So she gets her own new series, and if you want to get in on the ground floor, you can do that right now. Well, you're probably saying, Dave, you haven't even talked about Batman yet. Surely there is a new Batman title of some sort. Well, yes, of course there is. Legends of the Dark Knight. Yeah, you know, it's got everything you want. It's got Batman, it's got Joker, Mr. Freeze, Penguin. Let's face it, DC knows you got to have your Batman, and so they will pummel you with new Batman comics until you submit. So, Legends of the Dark Knight, submit. Over at Crosstown Marvel, you know, one of the titles that I really enjoyed from a couple of years ago was Spider-Man Life Story. It was several issues, all taking place in a different decade, 60s, 70s, 80s, what have you. It was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, now we get Fantastic Four. Same thing, Life Story. This issue is the 60s. Marvel knows how to separate me from my money. I love the Fantastic Four. I'm looking forward to this. Take my money. Also on the Take My Money category, Immortal Hulk, Time of Monsters. Now, this one is not part of the regular Immortal Hulk series. It's a little outside of continuity. The first main story, it's got really cool psychedelic painted art. and it reimagines Hulk as a creature of myth and legend and, of course, terror. The backup has Bruce Banner getting caught in a movie theater that shows your absolute worst fears on the screen. Really kind of spooky stuff. I liked this a lot. So, if you're into the terror Hulk, and most of you are, you'll want to pick that up. Two more floppies I'm going to talk about. First off is Wolverine, for those of you who have to have your X fixed this week. And no, I don't really know, the logo's this way, cover's this way, but Wolverine's kind of this way. However it is, he's the best there is at what he does, and what he does is, I guess, confuse in some ways. But it's here. Shang-Chi also gets a new series this week. This is a guy that's been around for a really, really long time. But Disney says you will like him a lot more now. He was a B character before, but now he's one of your favorites. So people have been clamoring for this book, and it's got a lot of cool green on the cover. Books that have green on the cover are always good. It's a little industry secret for those of you who don't know. Green cover means it's a good book. Okay, trades. Last week I skipped trades, and boy, did you miss them. I had so many people tell me, Dave, my week was ruined because you just didn't even talk about trades. So I'll hit the highlights of a few trades that I think are of interest. First off, Conan, the Songs of the Dead. Now, these are stories that were originally done back when Conan was published by Dark Horse, but Marvel owns the rights to him now, so they have raped and pillaged those stories from Dark Horse into this particular trade paperback. Thank you, Disney. If you're going to rape and pillage old stories, might as well get the really good ones. And these actually were quite good. So if you missed him before, and a lot of people did, because he really spiked in popularity when Marvel got him back, this is a good way to read these, and it's out. Two from DC that I'll talk about. First off, Galaxy of Terrors from Justice League. These were the kind of the lame duck stories that Simon Spurrier did as Justice League was leading up to Death Metal. A lot of people missed these because they were so excited about Death Metal. Well, now it's out in a trade paperback. These were actually some pretty good stories. Michael really liked them. I like them. So it's out now, and you should get that. Speaking of Death Metal, we get the newest Death Metal trade. This is called War of the Multiverse. Not that you can tell, because that red logo is kind of hard to see. I don't know what it is with DC this week, and hard to make out logos, but there it is. And honestly, you either love Death Metal or you don't. You either already read these stories when they're coming out, or you're waiting for the trade. Well, if you're waiting for the trade, it's here. Last book I'm going to talk about, actually one of the favorites, and that is Homesick Pilots. This is a cool little series, very high concept. It's a haunted house that has lost all its ghosts, so they get a punk band to help restock the house with ghosts. It's actually a lot better than I'm making it sound. Fun little high concept series, and it's out this week. Okay, finally, that's all I'm going to talk about for back issues, because it's still a good shipment of comics, but a little lighter than normal, which gives us time to tackle questions, because every so often we get questions that we want to answer. Well, this week's question is from Gladys Friederhoffen, and she writes in, Dave, latest issue of Death Pigeon came out, and it had 14 variant covers. You would only let me buy one of them. Why do you hate me? Well, first off, Mrs. Friederhoffen, let me reassure you, you are a real person and not somebody I just made up for this particular segment. Second, thank you for writing in. The answer is no, we don't hate you. Any fan of Death Pigeon is a friend of Ground Zero's. Ground Zero, like most comic shops, lives or dies by matching the number of comics we order to the number of comics we're actually going to sell. And we take chances on some titles. That's something we have to do every month, every week, every order that we do. But in all, to minimize risk, we have to go by the averages. And on average, people only buy one copy of a particular book. That's why we kind of limit it here to make sure as many people as possible get copies of the book they want. Now, we do order variant covers because sometimes people want to select a particular cover. Maybe you like that cover where Death Pigeon is using his giant mutant tongue to lick the blood of his enemies off his feathers. Or maybe you prefer the cuter, more tame, where he's holding hands with his love interest, Typhoid Chicken. Either way, you get that choice. But problem is, let's say I order 10 copies of Death Pigeon normally. Well, if there's 13 or 14 variant covers, do I order 140 copies? Not if people aren't going to buy them. So you say, well, so what? If I get there first, surely I can go ahead and get all the different covers I want? Well, it seems like nobody will be hurt by that, but what about little Timmy? Little Timmy Tienerhausen. He loves Death Pigeon too, and every month he steals the lug nuts off his dad's car, goes and sells them at the local auto parts place just so he can buy the latest issue of Death Pigeon. But this week, there is no Death Pigeon to be had, because I let a couple people buy all 14 different covers, and we're out, and nobody has them, and little Timmy's sad. And when he's sad, we're sad. So honestly, Gladys, we love you. You're a fan of Death Pigeon, but we love little Timmy too. So our point is to make sure as many people as possible get the books they want. Now, there are ways to get the variant covers if you want them. For one thing, you can order them via previews. You can let us know in advance. There's what they call the final order cutoff. And as long as you let us know before the final order cutoff, we will order as many different copies as we possibly can get for you. And if you miss that, well, we'll always try to reorder books that you might miss on the stands or variant covers that perhaps we either didn't carry or you can't get because of our one per customer limit. Or for some people, they put them on Saver. Matt and Ginger from Comic Book Rescue, they have several titles on Saver that they want all the possible variant covers for. So we will accommodate you any way we can. Okay, well, once again, this video is topping 10 minutes, so I'm going to stop there, folks. If you've got a question you want me to answer, just leave it in the comments or send it in a candygram. And if it's about comics and I can think of a good snarky answer, maybe I will answer it. Either way, folks, have a great day. Go into your local comic shop and give them some love, especially if your local comic shop is us. Either way, wherever you're at, remember, as always, it's not about having what you want. It's about wanting what you have. We love you. Have a great day.